Welcome to the final experiments. The final experiments are a preponderance of evidence against flat Earth, and the final experiments all confirm the globe. These experiments were all conducted in December of 2024 when 4 flat earthers and 4 globers went on a journey to Antarctica with me, Will Duffy. We spent time in Punta Arenas, Chile, which is at the southern tip of South America, before flying to Antarctica. This entire trip allowed us to conduct historic experiments and collect data firsthand from an area of the world that few people will ever have the opportunity to visit and do this themselves. Prior to my announcement of the final experiment in early 2024, a vast majority of flat earthers, with very few exceptions, promoted the Gleason's map of the world, which is an azimuthal equidistant projection. This map had the North Pole at the center and pushed the south to the outer perimeter of the known world. This made Antarctica an ice wall perimeter around all the world's continents, which served to hold in all the world's oceans, as flat earthers claim water must have a container. It also extends the entire southern hemisphere into a larger and larger area, where on the globe, everything south of the equator gets closer and closer together. This made being at the southern tip of South America and in Antarctica the perfect place to test flat Earth claims and also confirm the globe predictions. Every single flat Earth claim failed. Every flat Earth prediction was demonstrably false. The final experiments are meant to be taken collectively, just like evidence in a court of law. Undoubtedly, flat earthers will attempt to discredit individual experiments we did, while at the same time ignoring the rest. If they cannot provide an accurate map of the world and a working model that can account for the results of all of these final experiments collectively, that is because we do not live on a flat Earth. If they try to say these experiments are not actual experiments, but only observations, that is because they cannot reconcile our findings with a flat Earth. If they say that flat Earth does not make predictions, that is because making accurate and testable predictions based on a flat Earth is impossible, because a flat Earth does not exist. You cannot make and test predictions based on something that is not real. Maps of the globe exist because the globe exists. The entire globe model exists because the globe exists. Countless globe predictions come true every single day, and countless future globe predictions will continue to happen exactly as predicted because the globe exists. If a flat earther tells you that there is no accurate flat Earth map and there is no working flat Earth model and that they don't make predictions, that is an implicit admission that a flat Earth does not exist. Because you can map things that exist. You can model things that exist, and you can make very specific predictions that come true based on something that actually exists and is testable. I created the final experiment to give both sides, flat Earth and globe, an equal opportunity to prove their side. Only the globe side returned with evidence supporting their position. The globe side returned with tons of concrete evidence that both accurately matches the globe model and also falsifies flat Earth. This brings us to crossing Antarctica. Flat earthers have said for years that no one has ever crossed Antarctica. They've acknowledged that crossing Antarctica would be impossible on a flat Earth and that it would prove the globe. And the reason for this is simple. On a flat Earth, Antarctica is an ice wall that encircles the entire known world. It's not something you can cross or traverse in the traditional sense. But on the globe, Antarctica is an island continent, and you can cross from one side of an island to the other. Here, flat earthers confidently claim that Antarctica has never been crossed and can't be crossed, starting with a flat earth channel called Can't Cross Antarctica.
I'm claiming that crossing Antarctica is impossible. So my whole channel is, when I hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm gonna go cross it because it's impossible. So I'm gonna go find the edge, right? But I'm just gonna go across Antarctica and let's go find out what's out there. Like, let's go. It's all on YouTube, right? The whole community's on YouTube. So why not have a channel that is, the entire point of it is to do the one thing is that it's impossible. The worst thing is impossible. That people believe that the world is a globe, they say is for sure possible.
On a flat earth, if you go south, you keep going. On a ball, if I go south, I should pop up over here. I should cross Antarctica and pop up over here. If I go south from Santiago, I should pop up in Australia. Never been done.
And nor do they ever circumnavigate under the supposed ball from one side of Antarctica to the other. They always go around.
Okay, he's not crossing it, he's not going to the tip of South America to here and then crossing it and then going around the other side and coming out and ending up somewhere over here on the Australian side.
But the problem is no one ever goes from here, crosses Antarctica, and then ends up over in Australia. Never happens. Too far of a distance.
Nobody has actually really gone all the way across Antarctica. Yeah. Now, there are millionaires out there who could, assemble the resources to make an expedition and completely, go across and chart Antarctica and make a name for themselves, being the first person to do that. Yeah. But nobody ever does.
Now, they'll take you to this little peninsula. They'll show you some penguins. They'll charge you $40,000, and they'll kick you out. No one's allowed to go down to Antarctica, and no one's ever crossed over Antarctica.
How do we get to go across Antarctica? I want to go across Antarctica and pop back up on the other side of the ball and just end this for good. You can't do it. No one's ever done it.
When we were in Antarctica at Union Glacier Camp for the final experiment, a conversation was happening between Globers, flat earthers, and an Antarctic logistics and expeditions staffer named Scott. The topic of crossing Antarctica came up, and Austin Whitsitt said that when people claim to have crossed Antarctica, they always go to the South Pole and then turn. Scott corrected Austin immediately and said that's just not true. This intrigued me, and so I pulled Scott aside later to ask him more about this, and I'm really glad I did. Scott is an Antarctic veteran, and while with us was in Antarctica for his 14th season. And Scott introduced me to Eric Phillips, the founder of Ice Trek Expeditions and also PEX. I'm extremely excited to now pass on this incredible information about the world of polar exploration. Eric Phillips is from Australia and has been a polar explorer for over 30 years. And he has been guiding polar expeditions in both the Arctic and Antarctic for over 20 years. He founded Ice Trek Expeditions back in 1999, and they are a world-leading polar adventure company offering numerous trips to the Arctic and Antarctic every single year. And they are the only company to have operated through every established gateway to both poles, specifically reaching the South Pole from Punta Arenas, Chile, Cape Town, South Africa, Hobart, Australia, Christchurch, New Zealand, and Ushuaia, Argentina. Before digging deeper into crossings of Antarctica and PEX, I need to point out again that flat earthers have no idea where the South Pole is. If you ask them, they will first deny that there is even a South Pole. As insane as this is, they must do this as a geographic South Pole cannot exist on a flat Earth. Well, the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is located right next to the geographic South Pole. This research station is massive at 80,000 square feet. And since flat earthers have no idea where the South Pole is, they also cannot show you where the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is either. This is significant as all full crossings of Antarctica go through the South Pole. So here we are in the 21st century, and many people every year plan expeditions to the South Pole, and the more audacious plan expeditions to fully cross Antarctica from one side of the island continent to the other through the South Pole. And despite this, the flat earth community does not see the glaring problem that they don't even know where the South Pole or South Pole Station are located. And TFE has shown a very bright light on the South Pole because no amount of research will ever lead a flat earther to find the South Pole on a flat earth map. And that is because both a North and a South Pole can only exist on a globe. As we will see throughout this video, crossings of Antarctica not only go through the South Pole, they also begin at different locations along the Antarctic coastline and end at different locations along the Antarctic coastline on the other side of the great southern island continent. And all full crossings of Antarctica are impossible on a flat Earth and confirm the globe. The first land crossing of Antarctica was the Commonwealth Trans-Antarctic Expedition of 1958, led by Dr. Vivian Fuchs. They started at Shackleton Base in the Weddell Sea, which is near 77 degrees south, 35 degrees west. And after the 2,158-mile journey through the South Pole, ended at Scott Base, which is near 78 degrees south, 167 degrees east. Going back to Eric Phillips and Ice Trek Expeditions, Eric has created two very important resources when it comes to polar expeditions. First, he helped create PECS, which stands for Polar Expeditions Classification Scheme. And then he has also mapped out all the various Antarctic expeditions dating back to Scott and Shackleton in 1903. PECS was created as a grading and labeling system for unmotorized polar journeys. This includes skiing, snow kites, windcraft, dog sleds, bikes, and even on foot. The Ice Trek website has maps of hundreds of Antarctic expeditions, including a map specifically for team Antarctica crossings and another for solo Antarctica crossings. I'm going to focus on the solo Antarctic crossings for two reasons. First, flat earthers claim that you can't freely and privately explore Antarctica. But a solo crossing is just that, free and private. According to PECS guidelines, a solo polar expedition must meet the following three criteria. A single person traveling alone for the entire length of the journey. They must be breaking trail for the majority of the journey, and only transitory encounters are permitted. So while flat earthers falsely claim you cannot freely and privately explore Antarctica, there are in fact official guidelines as to how to have your Antarctic expedition qualify as a true solo journey, which means you must be alone the entire time. I would like to highlight just two of these solo crossings. First is Berg-Ausland's crossing back in 1996. He started at Berkner Island, which is near 48 degrees west and both south and east of South America. And after going through the South Pole, he finished at McMurdo Station, which is near 167 degrees east and south of New Zealand. This crossing took 64 days and covered 2,845 kilometers and was the first unsupported crossing of Antarctica ever achieved. The next solo crossing I want to highlight is that of Mike Horn in 2016. He started at the Nivy ice shelf right at 10 degrees east and traveled an astonishing 4,930 kilometers, traveling first to the South Pole and then finished at Dumont d'Urville Station, which is right near 140 degrees east. This is the longest solo unsupported traverse of Antarctica ever completed. He started south of Africa and ended up south of Australia. These routes not only make no sense on a flat Earth, but the distances become physically impossible as a flat Earth makes the southern hemisphere bigger and bigger. These unsupported Antarctic crossings, while extremely strenuous and demanding, are only possible with the human body because we live on a globe and because the South gets smaller and smaller the closer you get to the South Pole. Mike Horn traveled 4,930 kilometers, which is about 300 kilometers wider than the continental United States. But to travel from south of Africa to south of Australia, remaining in Antarctica the entire time, would require traveling the continental United States nearly 6 times, as you can see on the AE map. Not only is this physically impossible, imagine allowing the record books to show that you only traveled 1/6 of the actual distance you traveled. No one would settle for that. There are so many solo and team crossings of Antarctica, it's a bit overwhelming. But each one of these crossings falsifies flat Earth and confirms the globe. But we're not done. Crossing Antarctica on foot or skis or dog sleds is not the only way to fully traverse Antarctica from one side to the other. You can also do this by plane. Yes, flying over Antarctica is something else that would be impossible on a flat Earth and would prove the globe. And again, flat earthers for years have acknowledged this, while also claiming that it's never been done, and if done, would end the debate over the shape of the Earth.
Well, what is just a fact is that what would prove the globe is to circumnavigate north to south, go over Antarctica, and pop back up on the other side of a ball. What's illegal to do is freely and privately explore Antarctica and try to go over the continent and pop back up on the other side of the ball, and no one's ever done it.
I say, why do they lie about the globe? Because everything that would prove the globe, they have to lie about. Like, hey, let's circumnavigate across Antarctica. Let's go from Santiago, Chile, across Antarctica and end up in Australia or New Zealand. And it's never been done.
You can check for yourself on all these flights. If the Earth was really a ball and they can survive the cold of outer space, they should be able to fly a straight route across Antarctica.
Other than maybe the 24-hour sun, I would maybe go to see the alleged 24-hour sun, which no one ever sees. But no, not you would have to be able to go over the actual continent, right? And like you can't. So I just find that weird. I mean, because if you could just go over Antarctica and pop back up on the other side of the ball and then continue back to where you started, that would just end the debate for good. And conveniently enough, it's illegal to do that.
The only thing I do know is that nothing flies over the South Pole. Because again, on a flat map, the South Pole, the continent of Antarctica, is the ring around the Earth. So you can't fly over the ring and get anywhere. That's why we're not allowed to go there.
And no one has ever gone across Antarctica from Santiago and ended up in New Zealand or Australia. Nobody has ever done that, okay? But nobody crosses Antarctica. You want to put flat Earth to bed? Fly directly across Antarctica from Santiago to Australia.
Planes aren't even allowed to fly over Antarctica anymore. Not even close. They've been banned. They've been banned since the 70s.
I think it's also weird that we've never flown over Antarctica.
You can't fly across Antarctica if we're right. If the globe is right, you can fly across.
On a ball, Antarctica's an ice cap on the bottom. All you'd have to do to prove the Earth's a ball and shut this stupid flat earther up is fly over Antarctica and pop back up on the other side. That's impossible on a flat Earth. It's called north to south circumnavigation. Never been done in the history of mankind, and it's illegal to even try to do it.
It doesn't get much more clear than that. Flat earthers collectively agree that you cannot fly across Antarctica if the Earth is flat, and you can if the Earth is a globe. Well, flat earthers, today is your lucky day. Because not only can you fly across Antarctica, it's been done many times. The first flight across Antarctica was completed in 1935 by Lincoln Ellsworth and Herbert Hollick Kenyon. They flew from Dundee Island, which is near 56 degrees west and just south and east of South America, to the Ross Ice Shelf near Little America, which is at 162 degrees west, both south and east of New Zealand. Their flight across Antarctica, a world's first, was covered in National Geographic magazine back in July of 1936. And here are some of the more notable flights to fully cross over Antarctica. The Polecat flight from 1965 did a pole-to-pole, north-south circumnavigation of the globe. With 5 pilots and 27 passengers aboard, they spent a total of 57 hours and 27 minutes in the air circumnavigating the world from north to south. After refueling in Buenos Aires, Argentina, they flew over the South Pole to Christchurch, New Zealand. In 1977, Pan Am's Polar Flight 50 did another polar circumnavigation of the globe, this time setting a speed record for polar circumnavigation with a total flight time of 54 hours and 7 minutes.
Pan Am decides to celebrate its 50th anniversary by taking 172 passengers on a spectacular one-time-only flight from San Francisco over the North Pole to London, from there to Cape Town, South Africa, then over the South Pole to Auckland, New Zealand, and on back to San Francisco. Around the world over both the poles, all between Friday afternoon and Sunday evening. This will be a weekend to remember.
This flight flew from Cape Town, South Africa, over the South Pole to Auckland, New Zealand. Pan Am's speed record stood for 31 years until 2008. That year, Transpolar 08 circled the globe over both the North and South Poles in just 52 hours and 32 minutes, beating the previous record by 95 minutes. This flight flew from Christchurch, New Zealand to the South Pole and then across Antarctica to Punta Arenas, Chile. And then a very recent flight, actually due to COVID, flew over Antarctica in 2021. Qantas Flight 14 was created to bring 107 Australians stranded in South America back home to Australia.
Australians stranded across the South American continent are scrambling to get to Argentina's capital for their chance to catch a flight back home. The route home travelled involved a flyover the South Pole, giving passengers a spectacular view of Antarctica below.
What makes this flight so important in the flat Earth debate is that the flight was from Buenos Aires, Argentina to Darwin, Australia. The significance? These locations are much further north than most flights which fly over Antarctica. Buenos Aires is almost 34 degrees south, and Darwin almost 12 degrees south, just south of the equator. This means the most direct and shortest route by far on a flat Earth would be to fly north over the North Pole. But since we live on a globe, the actual shortest route was south over Antarctica instead. This record-breaking flight took just 17 hours and 25 minutes, covering 9,334 miles. And the best part? They filmed the beauty of the Antarctic landscape from the cockpit.
Yeah. So this one here, Alex, I'll straight over the left.
All flights over Antarctica falsify flat Earth and confirm the globe. And the flat Earth claim that no flight has ever flown over Antarctica is just plain false. But we're still not done. There is one more way to cross Antarctica. We've covered crossings by foot, ski, dog sled, and airplane flights. What other method could possibly remain to cross Antarctica? Well, this one is my personal favorite, and it's what's known as a polar orbit. Last month, April of 2025, the world's first human spaceflight to do a polar orbit took place. Fram 2 was a private human spaceflight operated by SpaceX. For 3 days and 14 hours, the Crew Dragon spacecraft orbited the Earth in a polar orbit and crossed the North and South Poles over 50 times. Flat Earth has absolutely nothing left. Just as they were wrong about the 24-hour sun and the geographic South Pole and the South Celestial Pole, they were also wrong about crossing Antarctica. Antarctica has been fully traversed in all possible ways. And this, of course, only works on the globe. I originally created the final experiment specifically to observe and record the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. But every step of the way through our journey, other flat Earth predictions kept being falsified, and the globe model was confirmed over and over and over again. Make sure to check out all of these in our other videos in the Final Experiments series. And please share this video with anyone you know who is a flat earther or considering flat Earth. As Jesus said in John 8:32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
We're not allowed to go to Antarctica. Okay, we're not allowed to go to Antarctica. So
there was a treaty, what, the UN thing. You know, what year was that? Just for folks.
1959, the
59.
UN treaty. Yeah, the not the UN treaty. The Antarctic Treaty said that nobody can go to Antarctica. I'm looking for it. Yeah, in 1959, they after Admiral Byrd went out there, said, "Oh, there's more land, there's resources, there's everything."
Mm-hmm.
All of the nations of the world eventually signed the treaty that said nobody can go there. But nobody is allowed to explore Antarctica, right? They took our map, they wrapped it around a sphere, and they said, we have to protect the penguins and the ice. No one is allowed to independently explore here. Now, they'll take you to this little peninsula. They'll show you some penguins. They'll charge you $40,000, and they'll kick you out. No one's allowed to go down to Antarctica, and no one's ever crossed over Antarctica. Weird, right?